It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, was Enuff Z'nuff. Name of that tune was Bring It On Home. Enuff Z'nuff is back with a brand new release, that not being from it, but the guy that's on the line right now to bring it on home, to bring home the new release, Brainwashed Generation, and just to chat in general, is my very, very good friend, my longest time friend as a rock guy, I think, Mr. Chip Z'nuff. Chip, how are you, my brother?
Pretty good for my age. Chris, I got to tell you, you and I go back about 30 years.
Yeah, dude, it goes all the way. I remember the first time I met you was early to mid-90s somewhere at Ron's Crossroads in Akron, which no longer even exists. And
No.
And I forget what you were touring on, maybe 10 or Animals or one of the earlier records, man. And just you and I have always had that friendship and I've come out to God knows how many shows at this point, man. But you know, it's always fun to have a friend in the business, and it's always fun when you have a friend in the business that actually delivers on stage, because there's nothing worse than having a friend and then having a radio show and having to kind of say, well, they kind of sucked, you know. So
it makes sense to me. It's nice to be accepted into people enjoying your concerts, because nowadays there is no concerts. Okay, so all those back memories, they're not going to go away. We left an indelible mark with those shows. You and I hanging out in Cleveland in the old days, nothing like it. Yeah. Will it ever be like that again? Not so sure about that. What I do know is that bands are still out there, the Foo Fighters and Metallica and Greta Van Fleet and the Dirty Honeys. We're all making records still. Mm-hmm. That's a celebration right there in itself.
Absolutely, man. And you've made a damn good one with this Brainwashed Generation, man. It feels, I'm going to give you my honest assessment. Liked, didn't love Diamond Boy. Love this. I think my personal feeling, and you can tell me I'm crazy or not, is that I think you needed Diamond Boy to gel as a lineup to make this record. Is that fair?
It's a pretty good analogy, actually, to be honest with you. I never looked at it that way, but of course, and after talking to all the journalists for the last week, everybody seems to be really in cahoots when it comes to really hailing this new record. And not necessarily because of all the great players we have on it, but people like the songs. And it only goes to show you that a very prophetic record, Brainwashed Generation, from the title down. All these songs are about what's happening in the world right now with all this subject matter. And I believe that maybe I captured lightning in a bottle.
No, I agree. And you're dead on with the capturing, what's going on in the world. And I think that's a thing that has always been lost on Enuff Z'nuff, because you guys were, a more fun band as far as the videos and whatnot and what people saw of you. I don't think enough people actually dug into the records, dug deep into the records to hear the lyrics. And I mean, you always had lyrics that were tough, stuff like Innocence or Marianne Lost Her Baby. Those were hard. Those were, some really strong, tough lyrics to really digest. And you've done the same thing here. Like I'll point to Help as an example. Fun song, but if you dig into it, it's a dark song for you.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And thank you on your compliments on the earlier songs that you mentioned, which a lot of that stuff lyrically was written by my brother Donnie.
Sure.
Wonderful lyricist, great storyteller. And the sign of a great singer is a wonderful liar, because every word they say, you believe what they're singing.
Right.
Steven Tyler's a perfect example. So is Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. You listen to those words and you go, wow, it really touches home. And it might have not even been songs that are about them. It might have been something that very abstract, but they were great storytellers because they're wonderful liars. The Beatles were great at that as well. So was Queen. A lot of good bands out there. The light of a voice of our generation, Metallica. James Hetfield opens his mouth and people listen. Mm-hmm. He's like E.F. Hutton. So I think, to talk about our lyrics and the songs and the way you have, is quite flattering to me. I just look at what's happening out there in the landscape, and I try to tell a little story within 4 or 5 minutes. And if it's captivating, it catches your attention, great. And if it doesn't, well, you don't always hit home runs when you're playing rock and roll.
Right. Well, and but the unique thing about you guys is you guys have always been one of those bands that is kind of it can be an either or both. You can just kind of like the sound of it and, and take it as a pop song. You can dig deep and find deeper, meaningful lyrics, or you can do both, that's a rarity in the rock world.
I appreciate that. And I work pretty hard when it comes to that kind of stuff. They might be short stories, but it takes a little bit of time. And I've mentioned it before. John Lennon said it best. All the great songs have already been written. Mm-hmm. It's up to us as artists to find them and bring them down to you.
Sure. Definitely, man. Well, Chip, with this record, with this release, I guess there are no records anymore, but I like
to call it record, Chris. I got to be honest with you.
Okay. Well,
it's a full-length record. I did a 20-song album in the studio here in Chicago.
Okay.
I with a producer named Rob Posen. He's a punk rock producer, young kid. He's worked with Twista and Johnny Rotten Jr. He's done a lot of good stuff, this cat. And I thought, let's take a different approach on this record. Let's just bash it out like a real rock band with very minimal overdubs. Sure. And he was very good about his approach to making this album. And then as soon as we finished it, I said, who can I get to mix it? I'm going to go back to the old oil well. Chris Steinman's the guy's done Styx. He worked with White Lion. He's worked with Alice Cooper. The guy's incredible when it comes to a sense of balance when taking someone's ideas and making sure that he tweaks it just the way, giving it an optimum level on these analog recordings that we're making. Sure. And we mixed the record and tweaked it all up and got it to Frontiers in about a month. And the rest is history. Here I am now. Getting ready to put out our 21st album, which is I think it's our 18th or 17th or 18th studio record. Yeah. That's, as well as I do, being around for a long time, Chris. That's quite a collection of material right there. That's a great catalog.
It is. It certainly is. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this one, about Brainwashed Generation, is you guys have always had that Beatles comparison, which sometimes fair, sometimes not fair. I know you guys have always been avid fans of Lennon and McCartney, and that's fine. I don't hear that as much on this. I know from talking to you over the years, I know you're just as big of a Cheap Trick guy, and you captured a lot more of that Cheap Trick vibe on these songs than I think you ever have on any record in the past.
Thank you. Maybe I have, and show me a guy without influences, and I'll show you a guy who hasn't written one note. So that's hence the reason why I got Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick to play on half the record, because a wonderful drummer, and I want that Cheap Trick sound. I don't run away from my idols and the bands that have tripped my trigger throughout my career. So to get Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater and the Winery Dogs, that's a stretch for me.
Sure.
But my wife is that's her cousin, and she was kind enough to make the call for me, and I was able to hook up with Mike, and he came out and did the record as a pro bono basically. He's really good to me, and same thing with other musicians on there, Ace Frehley or Steve Ramone. These guys came down because they liked the band. They didn't come down to make money. They're going to make millions of dollars on Enuff Z'nuff. But you know what? You leave an indelible mark. You play with the guys you play with, and it's special for the fans as well as the musicians.
Sure, and of course you had Dax on there too, which obviously is a big coup for you, right?
Yeah, I love him. I think he's a great guy. When I asked him to come down playing the record, my drummer was incapacitated at the time, and I had a deadline with Frontiers and Mario and Sarfini and Nick Teeter, all wonderful guys at the label. They said, "Listen, we got a lot of bands on our roster. We need this record right now." Dax saved it. He came down there, played on the songs. He would have played on the whole record, but I wanted to get my guy on it as well.
Sure.
But he came down, played on a bunch of tracks, and as soon as he started playing, we go, "Fuck! It sounds like Cheap Trick." it was like a baby Cheap Trick. I'm no singer like Robin Zander, but it definitely had a good vibe to it, and he was loving it beyond belief. We told stories, and we hung out over at Stonecutter Studios down in Chicago for a whole afternoon. He played on 5 songs, and he was done, and we probably laid down those tracks in one day. In half the day, we did everything. Honest to God. Not like it is nowadays where it's one song a week. We actually laid down everything in one day.
Wow.
And then we started mixing it up and doing small little overdubs. Not a lot of overdubs on the record either. We would hang out in the studio, and a lot of friends would actually come by to visit us. and hang out during that time, which was kind of weird because most people were staying in and sequestered in their home.
Sure.
But friends came out, they wanted to hear the record, and their input was really important to me, to hear what other people thought, because I was too close to the record. I couldn't tell if I had something that was worth anything or not. At the end of the day, now that I hear everything in conjunction, where the 10 songs that are streaming together as one, I'm really excited about what the future holds.
Absolutely, and again, I don't want to keep beating on the diversity thing of this record, but you do have you took many chances that I've never heard in Enuff Z'nuff music before. Another one that came out that really jumped out at me was "It's All in Vain," which almost has like that Pink Floyd Us and Them vibe to it, which is a very different wrinkle to the Enuff Z'nuff sound.
I appreciate that. You're comparing me to some wonderful artists, and that means a lot to me. Pink Floyd, I'm a big fan. I remember going to my father's bedroom in the middle of the night and stealing those records and listening to them when he went to work. And just fantastic music. I love David Gilmour's pipes.
Sure.
Just a great band. Okay, it left a really indelible mark on me at the end of the day when I heard all these songs. And when I was recording that song, I was in Italy, and it just came to me these little stories about how our history is changing, and we're all clothed in pain while the rest of us complain. And I thought, I got some nice little tweaks on here. This could be really a wonderful little piece of music right here. So I hummed it into my 1920 telephone just to give me the idea. And I was showing it to my buddy Tony Fennell, who's a singer from When in Rome. He's singing Ultravox. He played Enuff Z'nuff for years too. And he goes, "You got something there, mate. This is a good song." So when I actually started recording it, the first thing I thought about was, who can I get to play on this record? Because I think that, talk about my influences wearing it proudly on my sleeve. That one, he's got shades of ELO, the Beatles, Cheap Trick, Pink Floyd, and my wife was the one that said, "Why don't you call my cousin, Mike Portnoy? I bet he'd play drums on it."
Sure.
And there you go. It's probably my favorite song on the record, by the way, too. Bash that one out as well in a couple of hours. Not many overdubs. Just me singing. It's me singing all those parts there, just stacking a couple of vocals. But I love playing lead guitar. It's me playing the solo at the end there. I remember playing it for Alex Kane, my guitar player. And Alex goes, "Man, I wouldn't change the solo on that. Sounds great." I just put a guitar solo down just to show my guys and give them an idea and a template of where my direction was in my head and where it was going. And then I ended up just keeping the guitar solo. Listen to the solo at the end of "It's All in Vain" with me and Portnoy playing together. It's kicking ass.
Nice. Well, Chip, obviously you moved a few years ago to the lead vocal position in the band, and
had no choice.
Yeah, well, exactly. But at the same time, you also have 30 years of writing and performing with Donnie. Are you comfortable now in both of those roles as the sole songwriter or lyric writer as well as in front of the band?
Sure I am. I was fine back then. Okay. I didn't really expound on that. I thought, well, here's the job that I have. I wasn't expecting this, but when Donnie left Enuff Z'nuff, the first thing he said to me was, "Hey, if you want to keep the name Enuff Z'nuff and move forward, you should sing the songs because at least people know when you're in the middle of the stage, it's Enuff Z'nuff." Right. And I said, "Yeah, it makes a lot of sense." And then I went out and started doing it, and it took a long time. Believe me, I'd have lyric sheets on the front of the stage because I couldn't remember words. A lot of changes. It's not easy singing and playing bass at the same time. And I've always sang Enuff Z'nuff, but I would sing harmonies. A couple songs in every record I would sing a lead vocal, but mostly I would just accompany my brother, who I believe has got beautiful pipes. So at the end of the day, I just kept doing it and wash, rinse, repeat until eventually the fans started saying, "Hey, the band sounds great."
Sure.
It'll never be like it is with him. It's a different thing. Remember when Peter Gabriel left Genesis? Who took over? Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, right.
And that's the template that I used here. Now, instead of going out and like Stone Temple Pilots or Journey or Styx or any of the great bands, Foreigner, Those guys have all new lead greats. They're wonderful singers, but they went different places to go find those guys. I didn't want to do that. I said, if I'm going to move on with Enuff Z'nuff, I'm not going to get. First of all, it was very difficult to find a singer that sounded like my brother.
Sure.
Second of all, I've been doing it for a long time. I deserve a chance at this. We gave it 30 years of my life doing it a certain way. And now it's a change of the guard, so to speak. And he's doing fine, by the way.
Sure.
He's not touring or anything around the country, but he's got a solo record out, Beautiful Things. It's doing really good. He's got a song on the new Enuff Z'nuff album he's singing and playing with me on called Strangers in My Head.
Right.
Song number 6, right after It's All in Vain. There's some good stuff on there. I believe that it's the next chapter in our life, 21st album. We move forward, everybody, and this world's about all peace and love. We shouldn't be fighting and arguing about small little things. We should just be looking at the prize that's ahead of us all, and that's what I'm doing in this album.
Absolutely. And, I'm not going to beat on Donnie, but, one good thing is recently, I've just seen video of him, talking and doing some things that he's doing. And I am a fan, obviously. And it's just good to see him looking and sounding healthy because it was scary there for a while. I'm sure you more than anybody, who's, literally thought of him as your brother. That had to be scary to see when he was falling apart.
I adopted him into the family 30-something years ago. He was a little kid.
Right.
I helped build that whole thing up. I seen something special that he didn't know he had. And when we built this sandcastle up, it was respectable. To this day, all the great rock bands I run into, everyone, they wouldn't come down and play on the records or hang out with me if they didn't like our band.
Right.
We got a lot of respect as a group, and I'm grateful for those opportunities that have been provided to me through all the years of experience together, and I'm happy that he's out there doing it like he's doing it. I seen him about 3 weeks ago. Donnie came by. He's got a little 750 Kawasaki motorcycle. He came pulling up there, some cigarette in his mouth. I go, yep, there he is. Still got the same pipes. And we talked about maybe getting together in the future and doing some stuff, but maybe recording-wise, that might be the way to go, because he doesn't want to tour. He's obviously been...
I get it.
His feathers have been ruffled because of the way the business has changed and how people get paid. It's a tough life to live, but he's going to keep putting records out as long as he can. He loves making music, and he's a wonderful songwriter.
Sure,
great sense of balance, and you'll see his stuff. And maybe on future records, him and I will get together and do a song or two on it. I can't see that not happening. If he was interested in that, that's great, but. Right now, it's two different bands.
Sure.
We are Enuff Z'nuff. There's two of us left, two original guys, Alex Kane, who was the original guitar player in Enuff Z'nuff, and myself, along with Tori Stoff-Reagan and Dan Hill. That makes up Enuff Z'nuff right now. And I'm real grateful that we have a really wonderful team. And this next tour we're going out on, Chris, you got to come out and see us. It's called the 2020 Quarantine Tour.
All right.
With Faster Pussycat, Enuff Z'nuff. Tammy's out there. He's straight 10 years, not getting, or maybe it's only been 5 years. Remember in the old days when Tammy was out with Faster Pussycat, they were out with Motley Crue. They sold 2 million records and did 6 million of it in cocaine. Nowadays he's doing great. I just talked to him recently. He's excited about the tour. There's, I think, 48 dates on that 2020 Quarantine Tour. There'll be a special guest, I'm sure, added on to the list as well. And we're going to go out. We're all going to get tour buses, or maybe they'll just be Oscar Mayer Wiener wagons. Right. And we're just going to go out together. We're going to tour around the country, bro. And I'm telling you, I just talked to Danny the other day from the Throbs and Faster Pussycat. He's excited about it. So is Chad. The whole group, they can't wait to get back out on the road again. So let's see what happens here. I'm just grateful that we get a chance to make records in the 21st century. And, especially during this whole shutdown here in the United States and worldwide for that matter. To be able to find a light during these dark times is very special. And I want to give a shout out to everybody, if I could, real fast, Chris, to all our military, our police, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all our first responders, our doctors, our surgeons, all those guys, to help in keeping us going right now, because without those people in line, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
So I believe that we're a very resilient country. Great music, rock and roll, heavy metal is to be celebrated. And hopefully that we can get out this year and go tour around the country.
I certainly hope that you do, because, you know, as you're aware, I saw you twice in the last probably 12 months, I guess, because I saw you with Kiefer, and I saw you, even though you left like 10 minutes after the gig before I could work my way backstage, I saw you on the Sirius XM tour with Bullet Boys and Great White. And
that's a great tour.
It was a really fun tour, and I'll tell you, it was really fun to see you out there having a lot of fun. And it was clear you were having a lot of fun. You know, the thing with the you standing behind the guitar player playing the guitar while he's drinking wine and stuff. That was just fun. It was like an old-fashioned concert, which was much needed at this point in time.
And we certainly know how to celebrate. You know, that move I do every night where Tori Stoffregan, I hand him a bottle of wine, he starts drinking, and I get behind him and play a solo. Steve Vai stole that. He does it with Nuno Betancourt when they do that guitar thing out there. And he told me, he says, he's seen us do that on the Monster Rock cruise one year and thought, wow, what a great idea. And I think we do it better than they do it. And those are two great guitar players, but practice makes perfect.
Right. No question, man. Well, I'll tell you what, Chip, the new album, it is called Brainwashed Generation. It is an excellent Enuff Z'nuff release. And Chip, you know the drill, man. Why don't you pick a song and tell us a quick story about it to wrap the interview up?
Absolutely. I don't know if you're playing anything, if you've played the title track or Fatal Distraction, but that's a good one right there with Rick Nielsen, kid Dax Nielsen playing guitar. Have you played that track yet?
I'll play it right now. How's that?
Oh, great story right there. You love women like I do. There are superiors. Listen to this one because she broke my heart.
All right, well, let's do it right now. It is Fatal Distraction right here on your Classic Metal Show.
I appreciate that. Listen, real quick shout out to my boys over at Dash Radio.
Yeah.
Anybody want to check me out too, dashradio.com. I'm on the Monster Rock Show 10 to 2, 6 days a week.
Okay.
If you don't want to hear rock and roll, you want to listen to Kylie Jenner or Snoop Dogg or Be Real, they're all on the same network too. Cool. In the meantime, I appreciate you chatting with me. Check out EnuffZ'nuff.com if you get a chance to. ENUFF, ZNUFF.com. Our big show, our debut on our record comes out on July 10th, and then July 11th, we're on the Monsters of Rock Cruise live streaming show. You can check it out on Facebook, Monsters of Rock Cruise live streaming, and you'll see Enuff Z'nuff in concert, playing a full show, the first show since we've opened up the floodgates of doom, and we are all celebrating life now and moving forward, and everybody get ready to get back on the horse.
There we go. Awesome. Well, let's check it out right now. It is Enuff Z'nuff right here on your Classic Metal Show.